Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode number 94. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard, and I hope you had a fabulous Thanksgiving holiday. It's been a while since I've recorded episodes. I batched them before I went to Phoenix for Life and Law Live. So it is fun to be back in the podcasting chair and recording for you. I'm recording a few today, so I am excited to share this content with you. By the way, Life and Law Live was amazing. It was so good. I loved each and every woman that showed up. And by the way, it was co-ed, but I only had women show up. So just saying, you guys are welcome to join us for that event. But we had a group of women. It was so awesome. Everybody fully showed up, like they brought it. And we had so many breakthroughs, created big plans for life and law, and made some amazing connections. That really is my favorite part of events and doing the work that I do. It's bringing together people from all over the country that make friendships and relationships that go far beyond their working with me. And I love creating that type of community because we all need each other and we all need those networks. So it was so wonderful to see. Many of you were not able to attend, and you've been asking me if I'm going to do one next year. So the answer to that is yes, that is the plan. And I have the dates picked out. Do not have a city or a contract yet. But if you're wanting to put it in your calendar, the next Life and Law Live will be November 14th and 15th. And we'll do a kickoff reception again the evening before, which will be the 13th. So if you want to put that in your 2019 Life and Law planner, go ahead and carve out those dates. And I look forward to seeing you then. Okay, let's get into today's episode. And it is all about solo attorneys. Now, if you are a solo attorney, this will be helpful for you, especially if you are not where you want to be, right? It doesn't mean you're struggling, but it means you are not where you want to be. And you're curious as to maybe what's getting in your way. Now, I'm actually going to present this in the top 5 things I see people making mistakes on. So it's the top 5 mistakes that solos make when going out on their own. But even if you've been practicing for 5, 10, 20 years, I still think that if you're not where you want to be, you might hear one of these mistakes and say, oh, I'm actually still doing that. That's where I need to focus my efforts in 2019 to shift things so that I can get to where I want to be. And if you are in big law or you're in-house or doing something else, I highly encourage you to still listen to this episode because there is a huge myth out there that it is really, really difficult and hard to start your own firm. And we create all of these stories in the legal industry about big law, about solos, about in-house, about all of it. We create the stories on our own, but we also commiserate and share these stories over and over again, and we believe that they're true. And it could be that it's not true at all. So I'm not saying you need to go start your own firm, but I would love for you to listen to it in terms of just if you've ever had that thought or if you have stories in your head as to what that looks like. I think you might benefit and learn something here as well. And honestly, these mistakes carry over to anything that you are doing when it comes to making plans or doing something big or scary or exciting. Okay? All right, so let's jump in. I have 5 mistakes for you, and we're going to break each of them down. And it's been a while since I've had a free download on the podcast. So we are going to do a checklist for you. So if you want a copy of that checklist, if you're already on my email list, you're going to get it for free. It's just going to be delivered to your inbox. If you are not on my email list and you would like to be, and you'd like to get that free download, all you need to do is go to hustleandflowpodcast.com/ 94. So it's just today's episode number. And you can grab that cheat sheet in case you can't take notes as we are covering everything today. All right, so let's start with mistake number 1. And that is focusing too much on the logistics. Like you get totally into the weeds trying to get everything perfect before you open your doors or before you actually go try to get the clients. I work with several people in several of my masterminds who really, by the way, I'm a perfectionist too, but they really want to get everything lined up and perfect before they put things out in the world. And I totally get that. But that often holds people back and it keeps them from hitting their revenue goals. So when you start to struggle to make the revenue that you want each month, or you're not hitting the numbers that you had set out for yourself, it's likely that you are not doing the work that's needed to bring the work in the door. You're focused on running the firm itself. And it's an easy trap to fall into if you're thinking about starting your own firm or if it's rather new. If you've been doing this for a while, you're probably not in mistake number 1 simply because you probably would have already had to turn the lights out, but you might be. This is where, yes, you do need, depending on your state, your jurisdiction, you need certain licenses. You need to, make sure you've got your malpractice insurance. And technically you may not even have to, but I highly encourage you to get your malpractice insurance. That is super, super important. There are a few things that you have to do to open the doors. You might need, a certain trust account, stuff like that. You definitely want to make sure that you are following those rules. But outside of that, you don't have to have even your letterhead. You don't have to have business cards. You don't have to have a website. You don't have to have all of your systems in place. You don't have to have a filing cabinet. You don't have to have your legal pads. Like you really don't have to have all of that stuff. I mean, it's nice to have, but it can take you a really long time to try to get everything set up so that it is perfect, so that when that first client comes in the door, you are ready to go. But here's the thing, you're going to get everything perfect and there are not going to be any clients, banging on your door because you've not been doing any of the marketing work that is required to actually fill up your calendar with billable work where you can actually charge people. And it's a common mistake because it's comfortable. You're not really putting yourself out there when you are in the weeds, when you are working on your website, when you are working on your letterhead, because it can take a lot of time, right? We want the perfect logo. We want to make sure that we've got the font right. We've got the right colors. And so we can just spend all of this time making decisions in the weeds that really doesn't require us to get out of our comfort zone at all. And it's really just a way of procrastinating and a way of stalling the work that really has to be done, which is going out and marketing and getting those clients in the door. And it's really just fear-driven. Part of it can be being a perfectionist, but the truth is, I think it's not even really about that. It's about this fear of what if I then open the doors, no one shows up, and I'm a big fat failure. As long as I am working on the logistics and getting my firm in perfect order and my systems in perfect order, then I'm still safe. I'm still safe because I've not quite put myself out there. And then once the doors open, if it's scary and the marketing is scary, it's still so easy to say, yes, but I need to have my systems in place. That's fine and good. Systems are great. Don't get me wrong, but you don't actually need systems. You don't even need to be efficient at this point. You just need work in the door. Okay. It will come. And I think there's this belief, well, if I open the doors and the clients start coming in and I don't have good systems, it'll all get out of control. The truth is, you probably aren't going to have so much work at first that you can't also work on your systems. Okay. So we tend to go to the extremes with this stuff. Either I'm not going to have any clients at all, or I'm going to have so many that I'm not even going to know how to set up my systems. I won't have time for that. The truth is in between. Okay. So that is mistake number 1, focusing way too much on the logistics, focusing way too much on the weeds, trying to get everything perfect before you actually put yourself out there. Okay. So if that's where you are, you just got to put yourself out there. The rest will fall into place. Okay, mistake number 2, not having defined clients and services. Okay. Now, this can potentially work for you if you're in a really small town and you're one of the only attorneys in that town. It doesn't really work outside of that. If you are a jack of all trades, right? Like you're just, my shingle's out, here's my name, I'll do whatever you need and want me to do. You're going to have a really hard time marketing your services, and you're going to have a really hard time attracting good paying clients that want to hire you and can afford you. So even if you have on your website certain services, because I've seen this too, people will say they do a certain thing, but anyone that calls them with any issue, they just do it, right? Because you need to put food on your table. So you don't turn away any work. You take anything that comes in the door. But if it's not what you do, or if it's not what you do well, you're going to spend a ton of time trying to get up to speed to do that work. You are not going to charge the client the full amount of time that you spent. You are not going to be confident in the work that you're doing, and you might even hate it. And so you're going to complain about doing this particular work because it's not what you really want to be doing. So we bring those cases in, we bring those clients in because we don't want to turn anything away, thinking that we need the money, but the truth is it distracts us, okay? It's not actually worth the money because that extra time and energy that you are spending on that client that you're not going to get paid for is keeping you from doing other things that would bring in more money to your firm, okay? So if, let's say, you bring in a matter where, again, it drains your energy, you don't enjoy it, and you can't even fully charge the client because it's taking you way longer than it should, and you know it. And I'm just making stuff up here, but let's say that it takes you 40 hours and you can only really bill, 10 to 15 hours for it. And that doesn't even count the energy drain. You lost 25 hours. You lost 25 hours that you could have been spending marketing your services to the people you actually want to work with, or marketing the actual services that you want to offer. And then you could have gotten cases or matters that walk in the door that you do feel comfortable doing, that you do feel confident doing, and you could have charged your full amount. Not to mention the energy drain. When we get drained with our energy, it's hard for us to be really productive or to focus on high level things. And when we are in that energy drain place, we go to the minutia. We get into the weeds because it just feels better and we don't have to think. So this is a really dangerous place to be, is taking in work. I get that our minds tell us we need it to pay the bills, but that is a lie. The truth is it's keeping you from making more money. And so maybe you're not a jack of all trades. Maybe you aren't even putting on your website that you do everything under the sun. But if you have things on your website that are very different and don't make sense, like they're not aligned and they serve very different clients, that too can be really confusing. So when a potential client comes to find you, if they look at your website and it's very different things, as opposed to something that they are looking for, or it's complementary to what they're looking for, they're probably not going to think you're the best fit. Most people want to hire someone that knows their issue extremely well. And that's not just for big law, right? That's also for solos. That's including for divorce. Again, unless you are in a really small town, they want to know that you are an amazing divorce attorney. They don't want to know that you do divorce and bankruptcy and real estate, because they're probably thinking, well, you can't be great at all of those things. We live in a society where people are used to experts and specialists. And that doesn't mean you can't offer all of those things. It could be you're offering all of those things to a very specific client, but even that is hard for a solo. You generally need a few more attorneys in your office so that you can fully market the concept that you have an attorney for every issue for that particular client. So again, that is a mistake I see. It's not having a defined client or defined services not just on your website, but in your elevator speech, right? Like when you are telling people that you've started this firm, when you're out in the community talking, when you just say you're a lawyer or you do lots of different things, that's confusing to people. And so they're just going to forget it. If you can be more specific, that's going to resonate. They're going to remember, and it's going to get more work to you. Now, if you have not listened to episode number 7, The Rich is in the Niche, I highly encourage you to go back and listen to that. Okay, mistake number 3, not knowing your market. Not knowing your market. So if you were to create a business plan, a true business plan, if you go to the bank to get a loan, they want to see your business plan. If you're going to have investors, they want to see a business plan. And as lawyers, most of us aren't familiar with business plans, that type of business plan. So we just don't know to do that work. But if you go to the entrepreneurial business space, which you are now in as a solo, you will see that there is quite a bit of detail in a business plan as to the market space. And you need to know it. You don't necessarily have to have it in a formal plan, but if you can't answer questions related to your market, you're in trouble. Okay, so let's talk about what that looks like. Assuming that you are over mistake number 2, you've gotten over that hurdle and you now have defined client services, it's actually easier for you because you only have to do one market study. If you are offering like 4 different services to 4 different types of clients, then you're going to need to do 4 market studies. Okay. So if you disagree with me on number 2, that's fine. You need to do market studies for all 4 of them. And you're going to see it's going to be really hard for you to market all of them well. So if you are not, again, where you want to be financially, I encourage you to look at number 2, even if you disagree with me. Okay. So here's what it means to actually do research, to actually survey a market. It means that you know how many potential consumers are in that market. It means you know demographics about the consumers that are in that market. It means you know your competition in the market. So let's say that you are doing real estate, okay? You're helping people close deals, and maybe it's residential and commercial, okay? So those are complementary. It kind of makes sense if someone comes to your website. Do you know how many deals happen in your county every year? This is just assuming you're even helping one county, right? How many transactions are there? How many residential properties close each year? How many commercial properties close each year? That's public record. You can pull that data. Do you know the average cost? So what are people paying, right? So is this a $100,000 house? Is it a $500,000 house? Is it a $1 million house? Same with the commercial piece. Not just how many closings are happening, but what's the average and what are the different areas? Like, how is that falling? Is it 30% at a lower end? Like, what does that makeup look like? And then you're probably going to pull information about loans. Are people paying cash? Is there financing? What does that look like? What are the demographics on the average consumer? So if you're starting to pull that data and you say, okay, well, this is the group that I'm actually wanting to target, great, drill down. How much money, like what's the average household income for those consumers? And how many of those people from census data, how many of those people live in your county? Are people leaving your county? Are people coming into your county? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges that you're going to be facing? How many realtors are in your county? How many other real estate attorneys doing what you're doing? How many of those are in your county? That's what it means about knowing your market. It allows you to do marketing and sales that is so much better than just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And it lets you really look at it from a neutral perspective as to whether or not this is even a viable market. Some people come to me and tell me what their niche is going to be. They tell me what their focus is going to be for their solo firm. And I'm looking at them because I don't ever want to be a Debbie Downer, right? I want everybody to know that, you can do what you got your mind set to. But sometimes they tell me their niche and I'm like, is that big enough? Is that like, if it's that small, is it going to be lucrative enough? And sometimes people come to me because they've got big hearts and they tell me the kind of work that they want to do. And it's for people who don't have a lot of money and they're not going to be able to pay very much. And I question how that's viable if they're not going to otherwise diversify their portfolio. Okay. So there is a thing as being too niched. And the too niched piece is you don't live in a market that can actually sustain that niche. All right. So it's one thing to have it. It's another to make sure that you can actually pay the bills with it. And let's say that you have, you do this research and you're like, oh crap, turns out the market's not big enough or it can't afford to pay me my bills. That's where you don't have to cut it off your roster, but you do need to say, okay, what would be complementary services that allows me to move into a larger market that is sustainable? All right, this is super important. Beyond the viability piece, it really does impact the way that you market. It's going to give you so much more leverage because you're going to think of things that you didn't otherwise. When you really get clear on the data related to your potential customer, your client, it's going to allow you to think of all the different ways that you might actually be able to get that work. It's going to help you with how you talk to your customer, and it's going to help you find referral sources and figure out where they're hanging out when you really dig into those demographics. And if you end up doing Facebook ads or other things, you're going to also have that data to know how to better target them when you do that. So the more specific you can get with Facebook ads and other advertising, it's better. That said, and this was not in my plan, I will say this again, do not spend money on ads or things like that if you don't have this other stuff in place, because you're not going to get the results that you are looking for. Okay? That comes after you've got your basics in place. All right. Mistake number 4, not having a business development plan. So you guys have heard me talk on this podcast a lot about throwing spaghetti against the wall. And I did a business development webinar throughout the summer. It's not available right now, but I did one throughout the summer that really dug into this, and a lot of you attended that. So you know that I am a firm believer that you need to have a focused plan as opposed to just doing a ton of business development activities and hoping that it's going to pay off. Okay. That may have worked way back when there wasn't a lot of attorneys, but we've got a crowded market now. And so that it doesn't work. All right. If it's working for you, great. It does not work for most people. So what does it mean to have a focused and clear business development plan? It means that, again, you know your client, you know your target audience, and you know what marketing you're going to use, and you know what sales techniques you're going to use. I have done a lot of different episodes on business development, from sales funnels to the marketing matrix to asking for business. The best resource on that is just to go to the podcast directory. So if you go to hustleandflowpodcast.com/directory, or if you just go to hustleandflowpodcast.com, we have a sidebar box that you can just click. That will take you to the directory where we categorize all of the episodes. And one of the categories is business development. So just click on business development and it will give you all kinds of episodes that can help you get focused. So here you need to make sure that, again, you're not doing all of the things. If you're trying to do all of the networking and all of the speaking and all of the writing articles and all of the social media, it's going to be too much. And you are going to be completely overwhelmed. You are going to dilute your efforts, which means you are going to dilute your results. So when you're just starting out, you want to get really focused on just a few areas of how you're going to market, mostly so that you can manage your energy. And look, I know this from personal experience. When you are a solo, whether that is a solo lawyer or a solopreneur, which means you're doing it all, it's really hard to get it all done. And when you are trying to do too many things, It completely zaps your energy. You find yourself working 24/7 and you get really frustrated because you're not getting the results that you want. And getting focused on your marketing is really going to, one, be a time saver and an energy saver, but again, get you better results and let you know what's working and what's not working. That way that you can fully develop a strategy and say, is this the best strategy for me? If you keep tweaking it like 6 months in and it's still not working, then you know it's probably time to move on to something else. If you have put all of your focus on that one thing and you're not, no matter how much you change it up, no matter how much you tweak it, you're not getting much from it. The other piece is sales. You have to ask for the business. You can't just market. You have to do sales. And again, I talk about this in previous episodes. There is a difference. You've got to have both pieces. So having that plan written out, knowing exactly the customer journey that you're going to take people on, how you're going to attract potential clients, how you're going to actually get them in the door, how you're going to serve them, that all needs to be planned out in advance, as opposed to just doing all the things hoping that something will pay off. Okay. So that's mistake number 4, is not having a business development plan. And then last, mistake number 5. And I've already alluded to this, doing it all. So when you are starting out, you have more time than money. And so you tend to do it all. You're scrappy. I was scrappy. The first few years of my business, I did it all. I would literally get on YouTube, okay? I would get on YouTube to find out how to do something on my website. For example, coding. I would need to change something on the website, make a button work. But in my mind, I couldn't hire a developer because, again, I had more time than money. So I would go on YouTube. I would watch a video about how to code something to get something the way I wanted it. My mind would be like, I don't get any of this. I would walk away. I'd come back. I'd watch it again. My mind would be like, this is still really confusing. I'd walk away. I'd come back to it again. My mind would start to be like, maybe I'm catching on. Walk away, come back, and then finally I would get it. So I might spend an entire day on a task that in my mind, it was like, well, I've got to get this on the website, but I can't afford someone to do it. When that's fine. It's good to be scrappy. It's good to be willing to jump in and do it all. But again, this kind of goes back to like taking any work in. It's a lie. Because spending that entire day trying to do something that you should never have been doing in the first place actually took you out of doing the marketing and sales that would have been bringing work in the door. So you have to be really, really careful about trying to do it all. And what goes hand in hand with that is refusing to hire support. I meet so many solos who don't have assistants, not even part-time assistants, not even virtual assistants. And they tell me, well, I tried it and it didn't work out, or I simply can't afford it. I can promise you, you will never get to the level that you want on your own. Because again, you are spending so much time on tasks that keep you away from doing the work that really needs to be done for you to grow your business, which is the marketing and sales. And I get that it's really hard to wrap your mind around, because when you're not hitting the numbers you want, you tend to say, I need to bring more work in before I can hire someone. But that is not how it works. That is not how it works. You need to bring people on. You need to outsource. You need to hire help so that you can go get the clients that are going to bring the money in. And the other side of that is I also see a ton of solos who say, I just want to practice law. So I'm going to hire out. I'm going to pay a bunch of money to people that are going to handle all of my marketing and sales for me. Now, unless you have a huge budget, you probably can't do that. Not to mention, people in marketing and sales do not know your customer the way that you know your customer, or at least they shouldn't. If they know more about your customer than you do, then you've, again, not done your market study, and you're going to have a hard time converting clients anyway. You should know your client and that market inside and out. And that means that you need to be at the very least directing that marketing and sales. And quite frankly, if you just want to practice law without doing the marketing or sales, you probably shouldn't be a solo. And you may not want to hear that, but being a solo is about being an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur means that you're the one going out and getting the business. So if you're doing it all and you are not making the money you want, you're going to have to bite the bullet and start hiring support. Now, that doesn't even mean that you have to hire employees or full-time employees. Again, you can hire virtual assistants. Maybe it's just actually hiring out that web piece or hiring out someone to do other really small things for you. Maybe it's hiring a college intern to just come in and help you with your filing or your mailing. There are many different ways for you to hire support that allows you to just dip your toes in the water, because if you've been doing it all on your own, you're going to also struggle with delegating and thinking that people can't do things the way you want them to and that you can do it better. And you might be able to, but given the hourly rate, it doesn't have to be done the way you prefer it to be done. Okay. I know that's hard. It's hard for me too, but it's something that we've got to get over if we really want to have a successful practice. Okay, so those are my top 5 mistakes. Number 1, focusing too much on logistics, getting in the weeds, trying to get things perfect before you open the doors or actually go get those clients. Number 2, not having defined clients or services. Number 3, not knowing your market to make sure it's viable and to then go market. Number 4, not having a business development plan. And number 5, doing it all on your own and refusing to hire support. Okay, so those are the top 5 mistakes. If you are thinking of starting a firm in the next 12 to 18 months, or if you are a solo, or maybe you're not a solo, but you're at a small firm, you're effectively a solo, I welcome you to apply for our mastermind. We have a 6-month mastermind that is kicking off in January, and applications are open. We are already doing interviews. We have already filled up 35% of the spots for this mastermind. And as we are recording this episode, we're already making offers to others to join, and we do it on a rolling basis. And the reason why we do that is we really try to bring in the best group of people in terms of diversity and backgrounds. So we don't want half of the group to be doing divorce. We don't want half of the group to be doing real estate. We don't want people from the same cities doing the same things that are competitors, right? We really do curate these groups to make it diverse enough for you to get a lot of different perspectives, but also cohesive enough that you can learn from each other. So we are putting that together now. What we do is if you apply and we think you might be a good fit, we do a telephone interview. And then after the telephone interview, we decide whether or not, basically every few days we get together. Rhonda Kinslow is on my team and she is doing a lot of these interviews. And so we get together, we talk about it, and then we decide who to make offers to that week. And you've got about a week to decide. And the reason we do that is because we're going to make other offers. And if someone comes in that looks like you, that is in your same space, in your same city, and they accept, then you can't get back in, right? So that's the way we do that. It's on a rolling basis so that it's highly curated, but it is designed to give you what you need to grow your firm. And that is in terms of business development. It's also in terms of, marketing, sales, teams, systems. It's really just supporting you with what it looks like to be a solo. And a lot of that is just having access to a group of people that get it, that understand you, and can provide advice and support. It's really a board of advisors. It can be really isolating and lonely as a solo, and you don't always know who to turn to. This really gives you an amazing group, an amazing network where you can just post something in our private Facebook group when you're having an issue, and you build relationships with people such that you can just pick up the phone and call them or email them. And because you're all in the group together, you don't feel bad doing that. So it's 6 months. It's really intended to help you get your firm to the next level. And you can apply if you are a solo, if you are intending to open your own firm within the next, I believe we say 12 months, or if you are a partner in a small firm. So if you are really wanting to make 2019 a breakout year for you, I welcome you to apply. And again, that is at legalmasterminds.com. All right. Thank you so much. And I'll talk to you next week. I am super excited to announce that the Life and Law Planner is officially here. It is more than just a calendar. It is a full planning system. If you want to take back your days, your weeks, your months, and your year, order your planner now. It will completely change your life and help you accomplish your biggest goals. There's only a limited quantity available, so go to lifeandlawplanner.com and order yours today.